Welcome to the Crazy Alchemist podcast, where alchemy, occultism, and strange history come alive.
At 24, he was Marshal of France, riding beside Joan of Arc at Orléans. At 36, he was hanged and burned in a meadow outside Nantes for the murder of over 100 children. Between those two facts lies a story that medieval France could not explain and modern historians still argue about. Gilles de Rais was born in late 1404 into one of the wealthiest families in the kingdom. Both parents were dead by the time he was 11. His grandfather, Jean de Rais, seized guardianship and taught the boy that wealth and rank could override any rule. By 20, Gilles controlled estates across 4 provinces and could fund his own private army. In 1429, he was at Orléans. The English had besieged the city for months. A relief force arrived, and among its commanders were Gilles de Rais and a teenage girl from Domremy who said God had sent her to save France. He fought at her side through 3 assaults that broke the siege, marched with her to Reims for the coronation of Charles VII, and was made Marshal of France at the ceremony. He was paying for troops and supplies out of his own pocket. The popular image of Gilles as Jean's devoted personal protector is largely a 19th century invention. The chronicles place them at the same battles, but Jean's own trial records from 1431 don't mention him at all. The legend that he tried to rescue her from the English has no support in any primary source. After Jean's capture and death, Gilles withdrew from the war, and this is where the story fractures. He spent extravagantly. He maintained over 200 retainers, funded a private chapel with a choir of boys dressed in expensive vestments, and staged one of the largest theatrical productions of the medieval period. As his fortune drained, he turned to alchemy. Around 1439, an Italian cleric named Francisco Prelati arrived at his castle, claiming he could summon a demon called Baron. The trial records document 10 to 12 rituals. Gilles would step into circles traced on the ground with a sword, holding signed notes offering the demon whatever it wanted, except his soul. The demon never appeared, the gold never materialized. In May 1440, Gilles made a catastrophic mistake. He seized a cleric at the castle of Saint-Étienne-de-Mer-Morte, threatening him with a double-edged axe. The seizure of a cleric violated ecclesiastical immunity. It gave the bishop of Nantes, Jean de Malestroit, jurisdiction. Malestroit moved fast. He gathered testimony from families near Gilles' residences about missing children. Gilles was arrested in September. 2 parallel trials opened in Nantes, one ecclesiastical, one secular. The indictment alleged 140 child victims. 19 witnesses testified. The key witnesses were Gilles' own servants, Henri Griart and Étienne Corriot, called Poitou. They described years of procuring children, the methods of killing, and the disposal of bodies. Their accounts corroborated each other and matched details in Gilles' own confession. A woman called Perrine Martin testified about luring children to his residences. 2 accomplices, Gilles Dessier and Roger de Briqueville, had fled before the arrest and were never caught. On October 21, 1440, Gilles confessed. He had initially refused to recognize the court, calling the judges Simoniacs and riffraff. He was threatened with excommunication and reminded that torture had been authorized. The next day, without torture being physically applied, according to the record, he broke down. He confessed in detail, weeping. He described the murders, admitted to sodomy, said he derived sensual delight from the killings, and stated he could not determine the exact number of victims. He blamed his crimes on the laxity of his upbringing. Whether this confession was genuine is the central question of the case. Excommunication meant eternal damnation in the medieval worldview. The Templars had also confessed voluntarily under identical conditions a century earlier. On the other hand, the confession's emotional specificity went beyond formulaic coerced admissions. Gilles described acts, locations, and sequences that his accomplices independently corroborated. Coerced confessions tend to be vague. This one was not. 5 days later, he was led to a meadow beyond the Loire. At 11 o'clock, the fires were lit and he was hanged. At his own request, his body was cut down before the flames consumed it. 4 noblewomen claimed it for burial. His servants, Henri and Poitou, were executed beside him. Their bodies were left in the fire. Now, the revisionist case. It is not frivolous. No physical evidence was presented at trial. No bodies, no bones, no murder weapons, no graves. The conviction rested entirely on testimony and confession. Bishop Malestrat had jurisdictional disputes with Gilles. The Duke of Brittany stood to gain. After the conviction, several of Gilles's properties ended up in ducal hands. The witnesses were servants testifying under threat of excommunication. In 1992, a symbolic retrial at the Luxembourg Palace in Paris, presided over by a former president of France's highest court, acquitted Gilles. The retrial had no legal authority, but it demonstrated what everyone already knew: no medieval trial survives modern evidentiary standards. Modern scholarship has settled on a position that satisfies neither side. The crimes were probably real. Children did disappear near his properties. Families did complain. Servants described specific acts that corroborated each other. But the number of 140 victims is almost certainly exaggerated. The timing served the interests of men who wanted his land, and the procedural safeguards that might have separated truth from political convenience did not exist in 1440. Gilles de Rais was either one of history's first documented serial killers or one of its most elaborate judicial victims. The trial records survive in Latin in the departmental archives of Loire-Atlantique. The bodies were never found. The castles still stand. If you found this worth your time, subscribe to the Crazy Alchemist podcast. We publish new episodes every week, covering the strangest corners of history, mythology, and the places where the two intersect. The full article with sources and further reading is on our website, crazyalchemist.com.
If you enjoyed today's episode, make sure to visit crazyalchemist.com for more intriguing content and follow Crazy Alchemist on Instagram and Facebook to stay connected.